ML Sports Take, what's up, Bona family? Brought to you by Stanley Law Offices and Welch and Company Jewelers, as well as our good friends over at the St. Bonaventure University's online Master of Arts in Sports Journalism or Digital. Make sure you log on to sbujournalism.com today. Get your guide and get started today. By the way, for the person who was offended that I had a Syracuse sweatshirt on, here's my Bonaventure hat. Hope everything's okay. I didn't even realize I had it on, to be honest with you. And then I did the video, I uploaded it, and I'm certainly not going to redo it. Who has time for that? A lot of tough eggs on the pages lately, man. Holy cow. But I'm hammering through it. And don't worry, I won't spend 30 to 60 seconds talking about how I was emotionally checked out on a 5 to 8 minute video. Not going to do that. Not going to do that today. What I am going to do today is I'm going to spend some time on NIL transfer portal. And there's been, I think, an overwhelming feeling by many, not all, not half, but by many, that NIL and transfer portal is creating Bonaventure basketball to have a very unknown, scary, and bleak future. And the other thing is that NIL and transfer portal are the reasons for this year's failure. Both are untrue, in my opinion. Let me start with the first one, because that's the quickest one to get over with. The future of Bonaventure basketball, I don't think you can predict it, number one. Number two, Bonaventure is what it is. It's a mid-major, unique sell, unique program, and unique fit for players. And so you don't know who you're going to get in the future. And also, we don't know how the landscape is going to change. We don't know how the A-10 is going to change. We don't know if Bonaventure would jump to another conference where they could get more money. We don't know if there will be a different sponsorship instead of Adidas that could create more money. We don't know if there's money from places elsewhere. We don't know what this thing that Woj is working on is going to do. We don't know what's going to happen. So to say NIL transfer portal, like it's going to create the demise of Bona basketball, we don't even know what the future looks like with all of this thing, and we don't know where movement could be. I mean, in 3 years, Bona could not be in the A-10. There could not be an A-10. I mean, we don't know. We have no idea what's going to happen. Will basketball conferences start to do what football does? You know, also the schools that have basketball and football, and just say, to hell with it, we're going to take ABC conferences and make a superpower conference. We don't know what's going to happen. So from that standpoint, I'd be careful saying, well, the demise is near. I don't know if I'd go down that boulevard. I mean, frankly, I remember people saying 5-7 years ago that Mark Schmidt was as good as gone. And then more money started to come in, and Schmidt is happy and Olean. He talks about his kids, and here we are, and Mark Schmidt's still the head coach of Bona basketball, right? BC was lurking. All these other jobs were lurking. I heard from a lot of people on these pages, Schmidt's gone, Schmidt's gone, Schmidt's gone. Mark Schmidt's still the head coach at St. Bonaventure. Right now, a lot of people hammering on him right now because of the season as well. Have at it. And I think I just said right now twice. But the reality is, I think we need to kind of just calm down as far as the future, because we really don't know what this thing's going to be. Transfer portal and NIL. Which leads me to the next thing. I don't think Bonaventure should change at all in terms of the recruiting strategy. Go back and listen to my interview with Jay Billis. He talks about this a lot as well. I brought it up because I think Bonaventure, back to unique sell, unique program, unique place, people come to Bonaventure for different reasons. Look at this year going in. I will take full responsibility. I think I kind of led the charge in jumping towards hope and expectation because I really like this team. I was obviously dead wrong, but I like this team going into this year for a lot of reasons. They had players coming back in the NIL transfer portal movement. Every year players are free agents. I like this team, because they had Evans and Venning and Banks coming back, and they had Luke coming back, and then you added 2 premier players whose careers I covered in Central New York, Charles Pride and Micah Adams-Woods, who looked to be great fits for the Bona program. How can you say that the transfer portal in the NIL ruined this season when the transfer portal got Charles Pride to Bona and got Micah Adams-Woods to Bonaventure? And I would argue that Adams-Woods has been their best player all season long. Something just didn't go, ladies and gentlemen. Something just didn't gel this year, whether it was chemistry, whether they're not telling us, whether it's something else, whether it's just the way the players played together up to competition and down to competition. I don't know. But if you're blaming the transfer portal for this year's lack of success, lack of being a top 4 A10 team, lack of a double bye, lack of a chance at an at-large, lack of a chance, at least right now, of winning the A10 tournament to get to an automatic bid, because I don't think there's anybody, myself included, who feels this team will win the A10. They could, but I don't think they will, right? You can and you will are two completely different things. I don't think anybody out there feels this team's going to win the A10 tournament. There's a possibility because it's March and crazy things happen, and you can grab the lightning and put it in a bottle. You can become, the fairy dust can float around, and, you have that one last chance. But this team's been too consistently inconsistent for me or most of you to feel that they can win the A10 tournament. But going into this year, I felt great, because Schmidt and his assistants got all these guys back, which seemed like it was impossible. By the way, a lot of you out there seem to guarantee that people were leaving too. Again, predictions gone wrong. Imagine being me in sports media doing this every day. You got to hear it. I don't think a lot of you hear your predictions gone wrong on a bigger scale, right? And that's the benefit of being you and not being me. So again, I take it with the territory, because that's another thing I heard about. I don't have thick skin and I can't take constructive criticism. I was accused this morning of deleting posts that go against what I say. I've never deleted one post on the Bona alumni pages. I don't own them. And by the way, I don't like censorship and I don't like cancel culture. So apparently you haven't been listening to me long enough. Please, with all these fake garbage takes out there and factual inaccuracies. That's why I've corrected a lot of people out there, because you make a factual inaccuracy, I'm going to come at you. You want to give me an opinion, you want to come disagree with me, fine. But if you're going to give me a factual inaccuracy, I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. That's it. It has nothing to do with not being able to take constructive criticism. Please. I've been on the mat and gotten up so many times in this business, it isn't even funny. So I thought I'd throw that in there as well. But I was dead wrong about this team. I was dead wrong. I bought in this year. I try not to buy in because it's Bonaventure, and I say because it's Bona, not because of a lack of respect for the program, but because we know what Bona has to do to make the NCAAs or get a lot of people to turn heads and get a lot of respect. The people who know basketball, coaches, fans, at least a select group, a lot of people in media, the people who really know college basketball, I'll give you an example. Jerry McNamara has a ton of respect for St. Bonaventure basketball, because I've talked to him a bunch of times about it, including about a month ago at the Dome. We spent a lot of time talking about Mark Schmidt and about Bonaventure basketball and about the recruiting thing and Oshun and all that. So the people who know. I bought in this year. I did. I like this team. They brought a lot of people back, and they added two guys that seem to be tremendous fits for St. Bonaventure basketball. They brought in 6'4", guards who can do everything on the floor, who offensively seemed to, 6'3", 6'4" guards, who seemed to be not only great fits, but scoring offensively, great Schmidt defensive type players. I was like, I'm all in. They got it all. They got depth, balance, versatility, guard play. Something just didn't click. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't work. But it's not the transfer portal, and it's not NIL. Because if it were NIL, they would have lost players going into the year. They would have lost guys. They would have lost their senior leaders. They would have lost the former, they would have lost Semvis, for example. They would have lost players the way they lost players after the Iron Men 2.0 left. Oshun and Holmes went to Iowa State. Come on. Those players, that group went to Power 5 programs. This isn't the case in this scenario. Now, I know that all these players on this roster aren't as good as those players, but that's not the point. You can still get more NIL money at another mid-major situation if it fits, if it works. But to blame the lack of success this year on the NIL or the transfer portal when you got Adams Woods and Pride through the transfer portal, I just think is not correct. I just don't think that that's right. I'm blaming the unknown. I don't know what the hell it is. What didn't click for this team? What didn't work? The standard, the playing up to competition. I've heard a lot of stuff about, well, these guys aren't Bonnies. They haven't been there long enough to be Bonnies. Is 2 years not enough? Is 2 years not enough to understand what it's like to be a Bonnie? Seriously, like Adams, Woods, and Pride, okay, they were there for a year. I get it. But Venning playing a couple years, is that not enough to be there? I mean, Moses Flowers was there last year. Moses Flowers has played great as a Bonnie. Because he came from Hartford for 3 years, does he not understand mid-major basketball? I mean, he understood last year what it took to be a Bonnie, and you could argue that he's been the best player this year. I think he understands what it's like to be a Bonnie. I mean, listen, a lot of these guys came from different places, but I think when you lose games, people just start saying things. They just start creating things. Winning solves everything. Why can't this group beat Canisius at home? Why can't they beat Duquesne? Why can't they win at LaSalle? Why can't they win at George Washington? These are the games that hurt this team. It's not they almost beat Florida Atlantic. They should have beaten Florida Atlantic. They should have beaten Dayton on the road, right? They lost to inferior opponents and couldn't figure out things in big moments of those games. That's where this season came undone. And because of that, they were consistently inconsistent. And again, against a couple of better teams too, they were consistently inconsistent. That's it. But all this stuff about, well, they don't know what it's like to be a Bonnie because they didn't play 4 years there. They went to Bonaventure because of being a Bonnie. They sold people on being a Bonnie. I mean, Adams Woods went there. Pride went there. Flowers went there. All these players went there because of the sales pitch to be a Bonnie. And they didn't leave. They played at least a second year at Bonaventure. We didn't see the former Jan leave after 1 year. He bought into being a Bonnie. He came back to be a Bonnie. Venning came back to be a Bonnie. A lot of guys came back to be a Bonnie for a second or a third year. I mean, I don't know where this stuff comes from. It comes from losing. That's what it comes from. It comes from losing basketball games, folks. I was going to spend 3 to 5 minutes, and here we go again. I'm already at 12. This is what it comes down to. They were consistently inconsistent, and something happened. I don't know where the disconnect happened. Something happened. Was it a chemistry situation? Perhaps. But they lost games against inferior opponents, and they were consistently inconsistent. Losing at GW, St. Louis at home, at LaSalle, Fordham coming in and allowing that game to happen where they scored 80. Those at Canisius at home, those are the games. Count them up. Canisius, Fordham at home, the Egg Laid at George Mason. At Duquesne, that game stunk too. You want to put that in the group? I'm going to leave that out because they never play well at Duquesne. Duquesne at home, at GW, at LaSalle, St. Louis at home. 7 games. I'm not even saying you have to go 7-0 in that spot. Let's just play hypothetical, shall we? Let's say they go 5-2 in those games. You know what their record is right now? Their record is 23-10. They are 14-7 in the A-10. They have a double bye in the tournament. Are they an at-large club? Probably not. But they're in a much better position to try to go win the A-10 tournament. And if they win those games, we know they're a lot better of a team than we've seen from the beginning of the year. You go 6-1 in those games, certainly you go 7-0. I mean, you're 25 and goodness. I mean, you're 25-5. I don't know anybody, probably they'd figure out a way to keep him out as an at-large at that point anyway, right? But like 25-5, and then you have another 7 wins at 16-2. Yeah, I mean, or is it 2016 where they just keep him out no matter what? I mean, at that point, good grief, we're talking about a whole different season. But those are the games. I didn't bring up Dayton or Florida Atlantic. I didn't bring up at UMass. I didn't bring up Richmond. Come on, man. Disconnect, consistently inconsistent, something we probably don't know about. I mean, it just didn't do this. It didn't come together. But to blame NIL and transfer portal and, well, they don't know how it is to be a Bonnie. I mean, they might not know what it's like to be a Bonnie compared to Kyle Lofton, Jalen Adams, Oshun, Courtney, Stockard. I mean, come on. The all-time list. I mean, here's Richmond. I'm looking up. Hang on. I'm looking up Richmond too because, I mean, look at Richmond. Richmond was a really good team this year. Looking up their schedule. I mean, Richmond. Richmond ended up winning 15 A-10 games. They beat everybody they should have beaten for the most part. I lost at Mason. But they won all these games against teams in the beginning of the year too, right? Well, I mean, the win against Dayton really helped them too, you know? But like out of conference, they really didn't play anybody. They played Colorado at the time. They were number 18. They lost. Their out of conference was similar to Bona. But what'd they do? They beat Mason at home. They beat Fordham on the road. They beat LaSalle at home. At Rhode Island. I mean, there's a lot of games that they should have won going into it, and they did. So I don't, again, here we go. 15 minutes I'm at. So the NIL portal, not learning what it's like to be a Bonnie thing, those things are created because this team lost games they shouldn't have lost. And why did they lose them? Because they were consistently inconsistent. There's a disconnect somewhere that maybe we don't know about, right? But they got Adams Woods. They got Pride. They added to the roster. They added perfect Bona players to a roster that had everybody come back because they wanted to be Bonnies. ML Sports Take brought to you by Stanley Law Offices, Welch & Company Jewelers, and our great friends over at Camilla's Golf Club. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And as I always tell you, enjoy the games.